Yes, Chris Vannini, kind enough to join us right now, senior college football writer over at The Athletic, fresh off a week 0 slate that had a little bit of everything, if I can Stefan from SNL a little bit right now. Chris, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Good to see you guys. Mike, haven't seen you since the dance floor at Nicole Auerbach's wedding a couple months ago.
Yes, we cut that one up. We'll save the footage for another time here. I don't think people are ready for the red hot nature of those dance moves, but rest assured, proudly representing the sports media world at that wedding here. So in that time, Chris, we've gotten real life football back this weekend. We know the most notable version of that was Farmageddon abroad, Iowa State and Kansas State. Iowa State gets the win this weekend. In general, are you a fan of that spectacle of sending not only a big game abroad every year, but a game that's a conference game that could have a very real impact on what is a tightly contested Big 12 this season?
I think that last part is kind of becoming my issue. It was different when it was Notre Dame, Navy, but the last couple of years we've seen Florida State, Georgia Tech, Northwestern, Nebraska, and now this, two ranked teams, and putting them, several thousand miles away in a spot that is often raining. It's tough, and we saw in that first half, the field was not in great condition. Both teams kind of struggled to move the ball. As the rain cleared up in the second half and everybody kind of got their feet under them, you end up having a really good second half of a football game. But it is a bit of a tough spot to kind of build up college football, and you debut it on another continent where you're not going back the rest of the season. So I'm kind of mixed on it. Mostly just want a good game, and first half we didn't quite get that.
Yeah, Carson Hansen, the running back for Iowa State, really took control of that game in the fourth quarter, got some big yards for them as they get the win. Real quickly, I was interested in Stanford, now kind of running the NFL type of a system with Frank Reich there and Andrew Luck, and they drop one in Hawaii. Were you surprised at that?
Well, they were the underdog actually going into that game, and I think it kind of highlights it's kind of a lost season. I mean, it is a lost season for Stanford. Frank Reich is not going to be the head coach next year. He has said that. Andrew Luck has said that. So the motivation for the team is in a tough spot right now. Still, I thought they found something in the second half. They have a 20-play drive, 15 runs, 85 yards over 10 minutes. It looked like old Stanford again. They take a 3-point lead. They get deep in Hawaii territory late in the fourth quarter, and you're thinking they may go up 2 scores and put this away. They throw an interception. Great play by the edge rusher. Hawaii goes down, kicks a field goal to tie it, forces a 3-and-out, then a walk-off field goal to win it, and suddenly Stanford has lost that game. So it's going to be a really uphill battle for a Stanford team that was not good last year either, and now is doing a complete rebuild that they can't even really start the rebuild until after the season. I thought the running game, you had some stuff there. The passing game was a disaster, though.
Yeah, certainly lots of struggles that are going to take time to get ironed out. Andrew Luck watching from the box there as that passing game really it bore no resemblance to what we were used to for so many years under the Cardinal. Those are a couple of the results here, Chris. Overall, week 0, who was your biggest stock up after getting to see them in live football for the first time this season?
I think Kansas. They played Fresno State. They won 31-7 in a game that wasn't even as close as the final score. Jalen Daniels, the oft-injured quarterback, was back. He was 18 for 20 passing, looked fantastic. Cam Pickett, the Ball State transfer wide receiver, looked really good, and the defense looked really strong as well. Now, Fresno State, a bit of a rebuild type of year. We don't know what they're going to be, but I thought Kansas debuting a new offensive coordinator, a new stadium, everything went as perfectly as you could go. Starting off in what is going to be a very deep Big 12, Kansas may be a team we need to consider more as a potential Big 12 conference contender.
So let's look at week 1 now. Let's take out Texas, Ohio State. We'll talk about that. That's one of the most anticipated openers we've seen. The other 3, Alabama, Florida State, LSU, Clemson, Notre Dame, Miami. Which one intrigues you the most?
It's got to be LSU Clemson. I have Clemson as my preseason number 2 team. Poor Brian Kelly. He cannot win his week 1 game ever, it seems, at LSU because they're always playing somebody difficult. USC the last couple of years. Now they got to go to Clemson against a Clemson team that brings pretty much everything back from last year's team that won the ACC and made the playoff. And they lead the country in returning yardage. They've got Cade Klubnik, Heisman leader potentially for the Heisman Trophy, deep wide receiver group. They just have to stop the run. That was the problem last year. Clemson could not stop the run. They've got Tom Allen in there now as the defensive coordinator. And LSU can't really run the ball very well. So I think it's a matchup that ends up kind of looking pretty good for Clemson. If they win this game, real shot they're 12-0 at the end of the regular season, because they will probably be favored in every game here on out. And for LSU, can Brian Kelly take that step forward, as he often does at this stage in his career? They're always starting behind the 8 ball by losing that first game, and you've got a tough SEC schedule. So this is a gigantic game for both of these teams with major playoff expectations.
Garrett Nussmeier, certainly one of the most heralded prospects in the sport, but begin to be behind an offensive line that lost 4 NFL offensive linemen off it, including one of the top picks in the draft in left tackle Will Campbell. So lots of talent to replace in the guys protecting him. Dad mentioned Alabama and Florida State. We've talked a lot about the Kalen DeBoer and Bama side of things, but for Florida State, Thomas Castellanos comes out and fires off shots in Alabama's direction. He's obviously there. Gus Malzahn joins as the offensive coordinator. How confident are you that Florida State can rebound after what was an abysmal 2024 season?
I mean, I don't think they're going to go 2-10 with one FBS win. I think they will be an improved team, but in terms of where, there's like bits and pieces here and there. The first couple of years under Mike Norvell, when they turned it around, they were nails on transfers. They were hitting on everybody. Then last year, they didn't hit on almost nobody. And the high school recruiting has not been to the level in which you can find these guys who are going to really kind of take over. So you end up having to bring in a Thomas Castellanos, who got benched at Boston College, then quit the team before the season even ended. He ends up with Gus Malzahn, who he has a relationship with before. And maybe he's a good fit for what Gus likes to run on offense with a mobile quarterback. But I don't know if Thomas Castellanos is the guy who's really going to kind of get you into ACC championship contention. And Alabama's a heck of a way to have to start that thing off. I got a lot of questions about Alabama's team as well, but Florida State, I think you're just looking to rebound to, 7-8 wins, get back in the right direction. It does not look like a roster that's going to be winning 10, 11 games.
So of this deep quarterback class that we have this year, who are one or two of the quarterbacks that you think will rise to the top?
Well, Mike Jr. mentioned Garrett Nussmeier. He is probably tops on NFL draft boards right now. He's got it all. Coach's kid, can hit all kinds of throws. The one thing he has to cut down on is kind of the real mind-boggling mistakes. There's usually, 1 or 2 or 3 of them a game when you just think, like, what are you seeing? So he's got to cut down on those. I mentioned Kate Klubnik. I really like him. Veteran guy now, former 5-star recruit. Got a lot of receivers back, a lot of guys he's going to work with. And then we got to wonder about Arch Manning. Arch Manning, can he live up to the hype at Texas? I like the pieces around him, but I have some concerns about the offensive line going to Ohio State this week. They have to replace a lot there. And Drew Aller, can Drew Aller take that step up? I think people like the idea of him, but we haven't seen him in the biggest games take over and win Penn State a big game like that. He played well in the Big Ten Championship, but they lost that game. So I think you've got Oregon this year, you've got Ohio State on the schedule. Can Drew Aller look like a top quarterback in the country in those biggest games? Because the last throw we saw from him was an interception against Notre Dame that sent Notre Dame to the semifinal. So there's a lot of intriguing quarterback prospects here. I don't think anybody who's a clear, this is clearly, a Trevor Lawrence lock it in type of guy yet. A lot we need to see this fall.
God, mentioning that interception just made me tingle all over my body. As we get away from that great game, I want to stick in the Big Ten. Sharon Moore made the move to go with Bryce Underwood as their starter. No really surprise to anyone, given how big of a recruit and a flip he was, a local product that they got out of LSU. We've talked so much about Michigan in terms of the sanctions. What is there to expect on the field besides another chance that they have every year to beat Ohio State for Michigan football to do in the second year of Sharon Moore at the helm for them?
Well, if you could just get a passing offense that's halfway competent, this should be a pretty good team again. I really like the defensive pieces. They did lose a couple of guys to the NFL again, but they have so much depth on that defense that I think we saw in that Alabama bowl game where a bunch of backups were playing, that they have the plenty of talent on defense to compete for the Big Ten. But last year's passing offense was bottom 5 in the entire country. It was horrid. And so if you could just get something competent and average in year 2 for Sharon Moore, then the sky's the limit. Bryce Underwood, we'll see how he performs in games we don't know, but I also have concerns about the people who are going to be catching the ball. There's not a lot of high skill, I think, yet at receiver and tight end. You lost Loveland to the NFL. Who is he going to throw to? I don't think those weapons have emerged yet. It may be another year before Michigan's offense gets explosive in the passing game, but I like everything else, on the roster, the ability to run the ball, play defense. It's just they're going to have to throw the ball better.
A question that hangs in the balance for a lot of teams getting ready to break in talented new signal callers here. Check out his great work over at The Athletic or a dance floor at a wedding near you. Chris Vannini, kind enough to help us kick off week 1 in college football. Chris, thanks, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Good to see you guys.